offensive line. Gerard, why don't we start with you?
Coach Drink was real complimentary of Dominic Gaitis and how he's been playing at center. What's your comfortability of him playing that position? And then when Connor comes back, can we see Dominic, get moved over to guard, one of the guard spots?
Yeah, he's really been, a good addition. I think he's done an unbelievable job of gelling with the guys, learning the offense. You see him up here countless hours every day, just really eager to learn. So I'm glad we got him. Obviously, just whenever Connor does get back, just seeing, what gives us the best opportunity to win, who's the best five. That's kind of what we'll have to get through during fall camp to see who gives us the best fit.
Brendan, when you have as many new faces as you do, losing 3 starters, have one of them injured, just kind of what is the goal for this spring to be able to get that connectivity among the unit?
Yeah, I think that it's always the same. I think for us, it's really just getting those guys to continue to gel and get to know one another. I have been pleased with them. They hang out quite a bit off the field. I think Caden's done a good job, getting Johnny and, Keegan and Dom. They usually hang out together. So I think that's been a positive for us. And, ultimately, it really comes down to just developing that trust amongst each other, and I think, for us, it's just them doing that outside of this building. They're already doing enough here, so.
And with Keegan, it looks like he played both left and right tackle across his career. Do you plan to kind of try him out both sides there?
As of right now, he's just really primarily done right tackle for us, just not wanting to, move him out around a ton. Just kind of get him settled and give him a chance, at right tackle first.
With those 3 portal guys, what have you seen that they've brought to the table so far that you've liked?
I think for Dom, it's really just, his consistency, has some leadership qualities, his work ethic. I mean, just everything he does, he handles himself like a professional. Johnny's a guy that, has a high ceiling, just has to continue to change his body and continue to work on some things technically, but he's doing well too. And then, Keegan, right, just it's been pretty steady. Once again, it's just, getting accustomed to how we do things. I think just the way we practice and things of that nature have been a little bit tough on him at times, but he's settling in and he's only going to continue to get better and better.
Can you talk about the importance of Caden and Connor coming on as leaders, especially with these new additions on the offensive line?
No, absolutely. Connor still comes, he's coming rehabbing, he's on schedule to get back and all that stuff, but I think he's done a really good job. He sits in the meeting still and, communicates and sees kind of what helps Dom, what he sees, and all those things of that nature. So he's been good, and then just Caden, it's really just for him is just continuing to be, steady. I think there's a lot of parts of his game that he's been working on. I have been proud of him really working those weaknesses in his game, so just got to continue to stay the course.
With Connor and his recovery, how long does it usually take for a center to develop that kind of connection timing with a quarterback, and do you think he'll have enough time in the fall to be able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think that matters as much, simply because, he snaps all the time. You know what I mean? I think sometimes the cadence gets a little different for each guy, but that shouldn't be an issue at all.
Among the returners, who have you seen make the biggest jump so far?
I would definitely say, Tristan Wilson's had a really good camp thus far. He's doing a lot of good things. Curtis Fiegler's doing a lot of good things. And then Javen Richardson. And it's really those guys that were in the 2 deep last year that kind of know what to expect, my expectations that have really kind of taken that next step for me. So I'm pleased with those guys so far.
You guys thought about, swing tackle? I know Mitch Walters was really big for the team last year. Anybody who kind of emerged?
Yeah, we worked Johnny a little bit at right in some pass rush situations, one-on-one situations throughout the week. So, that would probably be the idea. I don't know. I hadn't really gotten that far yet. Just trying to figure out the best five right now.
Obviously, a lot of talk recently about Armand Membu possibly being in contention to be the first tackle taken off the board in the draft. I'm sure you've had coaches, scouts, talk to you about him. What have you told them when they've asked you about Membu?
I think with Armand, he's just got a tremendous, upside. Just physically, he's really gifted. And for him, I think he turns 21 in a few days. So, for him to be able to accomplish what he's done thus far at the age of 20, I think that's what has teams really, kind of salivating over him. I think his ability to play inside and out, possibly play on the left, just makes him really, really appealing for those guys that have those top picks early.
With Logan Riker, I know he was injured for part of last year, but just what growth was he able to make in that last year, and where does he kind of fit in now?
Yeah, I think with Logan, it's just continuing to learn the game. You know, we met this morning, and he's still working through some things. He's been, you know, a lot more attentive. I think, you know, he asks a lot more questions now, just knowing he's not out there physically to kind of process and get all those reps. But yeah, he's right on track to continue to provide us some quality depth and eventually be the starter.
What are your impressions of Henry so far?
I've been really impressed with Henry. You know, Henry just turned 18 on Thursday. Really should still be in high school. You know, at times it's a little much on him, right? It can be overwhelming, but he's also holding his own. He's been taking a lot of reps with the two left guard position. He's eager, he's willing to learn. You know, he's still got to gain a little bit of weight, but he sits out here and he does a good job battling. So I've been really impressed with him. Really athletic, got a lot of twitch, just really gifted kind of naturally. So just continuing to work on his form and stuff.
When you're trying to find that starting five, what are some of the qualities that you're looking for collectively throughout your team?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just being able to communicate amongst each other, and just kind of that trust factor, right? You know, just knowing that this guy next to me is going to do this. I know I'm going to expect this. I'm going to expect that. So you really can only kind of get those answers through what we did today. And, you know, as you continue to evolve and roll in different pieces, that kind of gives you an idea moving forward.
You mentioned those guys who are on the 2 deep kind of taking that next step. What does that look like for you? What are you looking for to show that they are progressing?
You know, I think just the comfortability in the offense, right? And just continuing the offensive line, it doesn't change. I think just continue to improve on their technique and their fundamentals, which we spent quite a bit of time on. But that's really the next step that you take. You're going to continue to get a little bit stronger, but I think your technique just has to continue to improve, you know, as you get older. So that's been the thing for me.
Anything else for Coach?
I know you guys tried out Caden at left tackle last year. Is he kind of solidified at left guard now, or do you kind of see that flexibility still?
Yeah, I mean, maybe in some emergency situations, you know, I really do believe that, you know, he has the ability to play both. I know he is a little bit more comfortable inside, so just trying to get him settled in there, you know, just not moving necessarily a strength or returning piece to try to, you know, that's really where the musical chair stuff kind of happens. So I'm trying to avoid that as much as I can.